Good morning, tubers. Welcome back for another adventure. And some days things just don't go very well. This is the 1983 Honda ATC185S, and it just will not idle. So I redid the carburetor, cleaned it out. It actually looked really pretty decent inside. So now I'm going through why else won't it idle. And it's not a bad idea to do some of this stuff anyway, just to make sure your engine's in tip-top shape. So I had to get this cover off. And first thing I did was that one was snapped off. The head was snapped off. And then there was this one. Well, for this guy here, I put my Phillips head to it, and it felt like it was going to spin. So then I put my impact Phillips head to it, really leaned on it hard, and it did spin. So then I drilled it and put this easy out on it, and I snapped the head off. And then it was kind of like, boy, this just isn't going well today. Now, once that broke, I was able to get the cover off, which is a good thing. So I sprayed the heck out of it with, the old blaster here, and spent some time, rocking this back and forth just a tiny little bit. Then gradually I got more and more out of it, and you guys could see that it's actually loose, right? And I was able to get this one out. Perfect. Then I went over here, sprayed it and rocked it, and sprayed it and rocked it. And if you take these apart enough, you could kind of tell when something's going to snap, and sure enough it did. Now, what I should have done is I should have just stopped, because given that I kind of had a post here, an alignment pin so to speak, and I could put this cover on using this one, I would have been okay. But old Harvey can't leave well enough alone, and I snapped it off. So anyway, a long story, but now we got to fix it. While the cover is off, might as well check the gap. And right, I can't get this paper in, and this paper is actually thinner than what it should be. So the gap is a little too tight. Given the broken bolts, I've been spraying all this stuff for a couple of days now, so I'm hoping things come loose. I'm actually gonna pull all of this off. By the way, the advancer appears to be good. So anyway, let's get this apart and see if we can't be fixing it up. This came loose without too much problem. That came loose easily. This one here gave me some trouble, so I sprayed it, tapped it, rocked it, sprayed it, tapped it, rocked it, and I did manage to get it loose. Anyhow, let me take it all apart. The cover is off, and you guys could see by the way that bolt is broken that it's going to be tough to drill. There's no way I could have, freehand drilled this. I'm going to have to use the drill press for sure. But even with that incline on the snap off, it's going to skid. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by center punching the heck out of it, and then starting with an extremely small drill to see if I can't kind of get it started in a way that the drill bit doesn't skid. So here's my center punch, nice and sharp, and you kind of place it on here, and you do that a bunch of times, and you guys could see the little divot I made. I'm going to start off once again with a small bit and hope it doesn't skid too much. So looks like I managed to drill a hole right down the center. To be honest with you, I didn't use the drill press or the lathe. I ended up using this guy, and That's an 1/8 inch bit. The reason why I use this is it spins at 2800 RPM, and quite honestly, I don't care if I burn up the bit. I was able to kind of move it around a little bit to get it centered because it really wanted to skid downhill. So I kind of put the bit in uphill a little, then gradually worked, and I got myself, I think, pretty much dead center, and that's where I want to be. Now I have to drill the right size hole, we'll re-tap it, and life will be good. So I went through my catalog of drill bits here, and I determined the right size to be 5, what am I showing it to you? There you go, 532s. Right. And the way I determined that is I took the thick part, and 532s fit just barely, and the other ones did not fit at all. They were too tight. So anyway, I drilled the 532 into it. Then I used some of that rapid tap paste, right? And you just slowly go a little bit at a time. Make sure you back off and get the junk out of there. Once I tapped it, I flushed, you know, the hole out. And as a matter of fact, while I was here with the tap, I cleaned up all the other ones, right? Now it's ready to reassemble. So 2 things while we're here. First of all, you know, just want to check the timing chain, and it's nice and tight, and it's settled on the gear properly, so that's good. Somebody asked me a question, why wouldn't my plate settle all the way on? They're having trouble getting that on. All right, a few things. Let's assume you have the right cam, and if you bought the all-terrain vehicle as a box of parts, don't make that assumption. That's first of all. Secondly, my guess is your cam isn't completely settled in, and the reason why, I mean, I guess the question is, was the engine completely taken apart? If it was, I'd be thinking that the cam isn't completely settled in, and that's because the back piece of it, there's a bearing with a little peg in it that needs to be settled in. Then this needs to be settled in, and everything needs to kind of sit. You put the chain on the gear, you time it up, and then you put that on. If for some reason as you're doing that, kind of pop it up, that's probably your problem. It's probably your cam isn't settled in. So for some reason there should be a little pin in there that, you know, obviously holds the magnetic timing advancer. Perhaps that's your issue. Somehow it's either you have the wrong cam or everything isn't settled in. Also, as you put the magnetic advancer on it, make sure she settles all the way in too, right? So something isn't settled where it needs to be. Let me just put it that way. All right, I'm gonna put it back together again. Not all that hard to do. Make sure it's cleaned up. You get all the filings out of there. So this goes on first, then the pin goes in, then the magnetic advancer, and then the plate with the pulse generator. While we're here, we got to kind of time everything up. Yes, I broke the recoil. Seems that this thing is, how many things could I break today? Okay, first thing I did is I set the gap correctly. So now that that's set with this thing on top, dead center, right? If you look down here, I'm going to shine the light on it in a second. You'll be able to see the alignment. Okay, hopefully you guys could see that. Right, there you go. Top is done. I ended up going with these are 4mm hexes on there. It's all nice. The recoil is all fixed. I put a little thicker rope in there. So now it's a matter of getting it back on its wheels and going back after the original thing. Remember, this thing likes to stall.